late 1700s, commerce in America was filled with counterfeit, underweight British halfpence. They disrupted commerce, leaving individual states to figure out how to combat them. In Vermont, Reuben Harmon Jr. took up the cause. In June of 1785, he petitioned the Vermont legislature for the right to coin copper for 2 years. By creating a coinage with strict weight requirements, he hoped to facilitate commerce. His petition was accepted, originally requiring that his coppers weigh 160 grain apiece, even though the official weight for standard British halfpence was only 152.2 grains. In October, the legislation was changed to require coppers weighing 111 grains, and the majority of Vermont coppers are that or heavier. Harmon set up a small mint in Rupert, a single-room wooden building, only 16 feet by 18 feet. The first run of Vermont coppers have a landscape on the obverse, with a sun rising behind the Green Mountains and a plow in the foreground. The legend reads Vermont's Respublica, meaning Republic of Vermont. On other varieties, the first word is spelled Vermontis and Vermontensium. The reverse features an eye surrounded by a glory of rays, a design seen in 1783 on the Nova Constellatio patterns produced by Morris and Dudley, as well as on the Nova Constellatio coppers, which began circulating in 1785. The legend reads Stella Quarta Decima, Latin for the 14th star. Vermont was an independent republic and not officially part of the Union yet, but this legend indicates their early desire to join the original 13 states. Harmon struggled to make a profit in only 2 years of coining, so he again petitioned the Vermont legislature in October of 1786 to request an extension to his contract. They granted him an additional 8 years and also provided stipulations for the design which weren't part of the original contract. As a result, the design changed drastically before the end of 1786. The new pieces featured a portrait on the obverse, with the legend Auctori Vermont, meaning Authority of Vermont. On the reverse is a woman representing the genius of America, who looks remarkably similar to the image of seated Britannia on the reverse of British halfpence. The legend reads Inde et Lib, an abbreviation of the French phrase for independence and liberty. These were minted from 1786 through 1788, with many different varieties. The entire design is very similar to that of British halfpence. It's thought that perhaps the landscape design was so unusual that it made merchants less likely to accept them, since they were unfamiliar. Almost all coppers circulating at the time, including others made in America like the Connecticut coppers, featured very similar designs. The portrait obverse of these is found with the Immune Columbia die as well. The Immune Columbia design had no unique reverse die, but is found with a wide range of different designs on the reverse taken from other coinages. When the Vermont copper contract was extended, Harmon also partnered with Machen's Mills, a mint that primarily produced counterfeits, after it was unable to land a contract with the state of New York. The Vermont coinage was the only officially sanctioned activity of Machen's Mills. Like many colonial issues, the Vermont coppers were largely ignored by numismatists for decades. In 1919, Hillier C. Ryder published a study in the American Journal of Numismatics, which assigned numbers to different varieties. The system was updated in 1947 by John M. Richardson in The Colonial Coins of Vermont, published in The Numismatist. The numbers assigned in these two pieces are referred to as RR numbers, Ryder-Richardson numbers, and are the standard when classifying Vermont coppers. Today, there are 39 recognized different types. There are many different ways to go about collecting Vermont coppers. Since they are produced for a total of 4 years, a date set is an option. A type set would include 3 main types: a landscape copper, a mailed bust left of 1786 or 87, and a mailed bust right of 1787 or 88. For the more determined, a complete set of landscape types could be attempted, a set of Red Book varieties, or, if you're willing to wait years for the rarest issues to appear on the market, a set of all varieties, RR1 through 39. Whatever the goal for a collection, choosing individual coins is significantly different than for federal issues. Numerical grade is commonly misleading because eye appeal is the key factor. Planchet quality varies widely in Vermont coppers and should always be evaluated. The strike is also a varying factor. Are all of the elements well centered on the planchet? How much detail was struck? A VF example with a strong strike and high-quality planchet may be a better purchase than an AU coin that's poorly struck or on a problematic planchet. Finally, as with any copper coin, color should be taken into account. Dark examples are less desirable, while those with an even chocolate color are highly prized. It's important to familiarize yourself with the series and what a typical example looks like. They simply weren't struck with high levels of detail, even when fresh out of the press. Today, there are still plenty of questions about the series. For example, who made the dies? Harmon worked with Colonel William Coley and Daniel Van Voorhees, both of whom were skilled New York City engravers. It's usually thought that Coley, who moved to Vermont, was responsible for most of the early landscape dies, but there's also evidence that some dies may have been created by Abel Buell or his son William, both of whom engraved dies for the Connecticut Mint. If you'd like to learn more about the Vermont Coppers, some of the best references are The Copper Coins of Vermont and Interrelated Issues of 1783 to 1788 by Q. David Bowers from 2018, and The Copper Coins of Vermont by Tony Carlotto from 1998. In addition, the Colonial Coin Collectors Club, known as C4, is a group of collectors interested in colonial coinage. They have multiple yearly meetings in conjunction with large coin shows, have a colonial reference lending library, and publish a quarterly newsletter. For more information about becoming a member, visit colonialcoins.org.